welcome to GJ's Guitars. I thought this week I would do a video on the Dave Gilmour custom shop Stratocaster. I'm very fortunate to own one, and what kind of inspired the video was some students said to me, it'd be really nice, John, to hear you talking about some of the guitars that you've collected over the years. So I thought this one would be a prime example of that, and I'm actually fortunate enough to have borrowed the non-relic version off a friend of mine. So I thought I would review them both. A little while ago, I'm very lucky. I live in the heart of West Sussex, and David Gilmour actually lives about 20-30 minutes drive in that direction. So that's pretty cool. So hence the sort of inspiration to have a look at this guitar in some detail. Okay, let's talk about the guitar then. So like I mentioned before, this is the Relic version. So this is a true replication of his instrument. So I was actually fortunate enough to pop up to Christie's when he auctioned all these guitars off. So I did actually have a look at the real one. So you know, from what I can roughly remember, it's the same. So, and I know they really do pride themselves on that, and the custom shop, they really do go all out the details. So, you know, what I've got here is a replication of his guitar. So let's talk about it. So a couple of interesting things that I find fascinating about this is, as I said before, it was a parts caster. So they've just put a guitar together with bits. So it's a different neck and a different body and different pickups and all the rest of it. But you can interestingly see where this body originally had a Floyd Rose in it, because it was cut here for a Floyd Rose. And you can also see it obviously had some kind of stereo or MIDI situation, because there's a hole at the end of it where the jack socket was, which they filled in, which is pretty cool. It was obviously red originally, and I do believe they did hand paint it. They didn't spray it, it was hand painted. So it was red, and then they've just painted black over it. Obviously, David Gilmour is really a black and white man. He likes a black scratch plate with white pickups, which I do think does look quite stunning and quite iconic. I think when you see it on stage, where it's certainly been played, it looks fantastic. There's a weird kind of mark here. I don't know what that's signified in the jack socket, which is like an A that someone's scored in. Obviously, they've converted it to a standard, you know, vintage Fender bridge piece, and you can see on the back 3 springs opposed to 5 if you want to lock the trem up. It's got a weird kind of way the body's been routed here. I can only presume they've copied that as well. It came with no plate on the back. He obviously lost that some time ago. A lot of techs take them off because they can't be bothered to filter the strings through, so they just leave them off. The scratch plate the neck bolt plate is got some real distinguishing marks on it, which is quite interesting. Obviously either someone's rubbed it over or something, or something's happened there. And you can see where the neck's been over tightened at some point, because it's broken the paint off, which is obviously what had happened to his. I don't exactly know what it weighs. It feels about 7-ish pounds, something like that. So it's not a heavy guitar, it's not a light guitar, it's somewhere in the middle. So very, very giggable. You know, it's not a heavy instrument. The thing that makes this guitar for me personally is this clever little switch which is on the front here. And what this will do is, if you are on the bridge pickup in this position and you flick this on, it will engage the front pickup. So it will give you a kind of Telecasterish sort of tone, but on a Strat. Some people argue it's the best Strat sound you'll ever get, having the neck pickup and the bridge pickup in together. The middle one was already redundant. And then obviously, if you flick that up to the neck pickup, it would just be the neck pickup. So it kind of fattens the sound of the instrument. Then if you want to just make it normal Strat, you can just turn it off. I quite like this because the switch is passive, so there's no battery malarkey in the guitar, which is just a pain. And the other thing that makes it quite cool, it's really tiny. So you don't really know it's there. It's not intrusive on the instrument. So, you know, sometimes when you see these guys gigging live, you can always see them fiddling around with the tone controls on their instrument, which is obviously what he's doing to get that sound, and how he does it. So that's basically that. Today I set up a tone on my Helix to generate a kind of Gilmour effect, which I'm obviously playing through my monitor speakers and stuff. So I synthesized a sort of pad chord, G minor, and then I used some reverbs and stuff, and I tried to copy his sound as much as I possibly could with the kind of effects I know he roughly uses, which I think I got pretty good. was really fortunate to borrow this off a friend of mine who also collects guitars. He really wanted a Dave Gilmour Stratocaster as well, and he managed to actually get one off a dealer. So this one is the non-relic version they did at the same time. So they did one that was obviously relic and bashed and looked exactly like his, and they did one that wasn't so. So what's the differences? Well, okay, so obviously the first thing is it's not relic, it's got not any body markings or bashes on it anywhere. The jack socket isn't marked. It's got the same bridge components. It's got the same pickups as the other one. It's got the same tone knobs, and all the controls work exactly the same, apart from all these things aren't relic like on the other one, are made to look worn. When I looked at this, it's quite interesting because I think the scratch plate on this is slightly thicker than on the relic one. If you look at them closely, you can actually see that. And also, they've made this scratch plate fit round the neck, which obviously wasn't like that on the relic one. On mine, I actually didn't, I took my whammy bar out, but the Gilmour one is interesting in the fact he cut it down, which is quite interesting to make it a little bit more usable. So he didn't want some great big long arm, he wanted quite a short one. And obviously he has it so he can just let go of it and it drops quite naturally, and it's pretty tight in the fitting of that, so it doesn't sort of wobble around in the block, which is quite cool. But if you look at it, obviously he cut his down by probably about that much, something like that, which is quite cool. This one's obviously got it in. If you look at the neck, there's no physical wear on it anywhere, and it's still as orange as the other one was, apart from this one they've lacquered it, and they've lacquered the fingerboard as well, so the whole thing's lacquered, so it's a sort of more mint version. Just holding it, this one feels lighter than mine. It does feel slightly lighter, so I would imagine they've probably used the same kind of woods or whatever they've done with the other one, but this one just happens to be a little bit lighter. What is really nice to see with this guitar, my friend did buy it secondhand, but you can actually see someone's played it, so they haven't just bought it and left it in a case. These guitars are really super collectible, but I think it's always worth thinking about. If you buy something like this, you should play them. You know, they're designed to be played. So, you know, when I bought mine, I thought, well, to be honest, I probably will never need to sell it. If I did, I'd have to. Well, okay, fair enough. But, you know, I bought them to play them. So, you know, I've got loads of guitars, but I don't play them all of the time. But I've always had that mindset, anything I buy, I would gig. This one, you can see it's got some marks on it. So it's really nice to actually see the thing's been played. You know, it has been, someone's enjoyed playing it. They've sold it for whatever reason. Perhaps they no longer wanted it, or they needed to raise some funds, something like that. But the thing is, it's nice to see it being played. So this is the kind of other example. Interestingly, just looking at the serial numbers, this one starts with 7.8 and my one started with 4.5. So I don't know, you know, that's obviously where they roughly were in the food chain. So I don't know, you know, if they've started the numbers again from 0 and they started making those. I don't know, but that's where that comes from. This one, obviously, scratch plate on the back, which you can see you know, these nearly line up with. So if you had to restring it, you'd probably have to take it off, which is a bit of a pain, but you know, it could be done. And it's got some sort of scratches on the back where it's rubbed on a coat or something. Right, so let's just talk about the case. It's important. So when you open this up, it just looks totally cool. It's just something that I think looks fantastic. This is my friend's case and his guitar in it. Just looks cool. You get this Gilmour thing written in there. There's a little thing, and the other thing that's quite cool is the Fender badge they've stuck on the outside. So let's have a look at the case candy. So, oops. When you get these, mine came with this as well. You get a Fender Custom Shop toolkit. Don't know how handy that is, but you get a strap. Now, with this particular one, mine came with the strap that he uses, which is a brown one with stars on it, I think. Mine did come with that. You get a custom shop cloth thing that's quite cool. You get some picks. You get these, which are really cool, which is supposedly his strings. There it is. GHS 1048. So notice the gauge isn't the same as a standard Stratocaster. 1046 would be normal ones. So if we look, 48, 38. So Those two are different. Those are different. So that's pretty cool. That's the one he uses supposedly. You get all the tags, obviously, the serial number, and obviously how it's gone down the production line. I don't know what this is. Let's have a look. That's just probably the case model of what it is. You get the certificate. If ever you buy a custom shop guitar, always try and make sure it's got a certificate. Even if you buy them second hand, sometimes people lose this information, which is a real shame. It just tells you obviously when it was made. So this was 2014. Tells you who made it, Tom Montgomery, which is pretty cool. Always gives you the serial number. It's just a thing you really want to have if you buy anything collectible. This also comes with this fantastic book and a CD, which I'll show you in a sec. But this book has got loads of memorabilia and obviously talks about different bits in the guitars and talks a little bit about some Fenders and stuff like that. Shows some of his gigs. The other thing this comes with, which is really cool, is a CD. This one's never been opened, like mine. I think you could buy this CD, I'm not so sure, but you could buy it. It was a limited edition thing they did. So how lucky am I? I can't believe it. I've managed to end up with 2 David Gilmour Stratocasters. Not too many people doing this today. So I guess, what's the conclusion here? These are fantastic instruments. They're worth quite a few pressaroonies these days. They've obviously both been played. I mean, obviously I've had this one from you. I have played it and I've used it on a couple of gigs. This one I've been lucky enough to borrow off my friend. I've been playing it for a couple of days on and off. Sounds fantastic. It sounds exactly like the other one without the relicing. I guess if you are a real David Gilmour, Pink Floyd person and you wanted to put some investment in or just own something that's fantastic, you know, they're well worth it. I think these days they seem to sort of go anywhere between 8,000 upwards, so they're a lot of money. Obviously when he auctioned them off, they went up a little bit more. What's quite interesting is that he's auctioned off his version of or his original one. But now I've noticed he's gone back to using a non-relic one and it looks exactly like this one. So, there's still a current guitar that he obviously loves and he likes using, and he hasn't really changed that. You look at any videos of him playing recently, that's what he's playing. So, what an opportunity to have a look at these fantastic guitars. They're just great things to own, feel, touch, play, and all the rest of it. They're great.